Welcome to the ScreenCrush Break Room. I'm Ryan Airy. Avengers Endgame was the finale to an unprecedented experiment. 20 films interconnected into one franchise that delivered on one of the greatest movie cliffhangers of all time and that resolved the stories of our heroes while also hinting in bold new directions for other heroes, and it became the highest grossing film of all time, briefly. And Star Wars Episode 9 The Rise of Skywalker was the capstone to a cinematic saga that's captivated the world for generations. It reunited casts of 3 trilogies, resolved our heroes' stories, and brought closure to the death of a beloved cinema icon. I think each movie has one scene that is very similar but shows why one movie is like this,
On your left.
and the other's this.
Where's Ben? Where the is Ben?
Welcome to Scene Fights. So you can probably guess the moment I'm going to talk about. It's on the thumbnail. It's the all is lost scene in each film, when the heroes are on the cusp of defeat, but then all their friends show up to save the day. But first, let's go over the movie's many similarities. Each movie is attempting to wrap up a huge saga that includes TV shows and trilogies and comics. The heroes are recovering after a loss in the last movie and are struggling to gain traction. Rey can't hear the other dead Jedi, and the Avengers have no way to stop Thanos. To win the day, heroes have to come to a reconciliation with their own pasts and heritage. There's a cameo from a dead father figure that helps one of the heroes get his mind right. The villain was presented sympathetically in the last movie, but now the main villain is just pure evil. And each movie features the return of villains that we thought were dead. The heroes have to go off on a caper together before splitting off into teams and then coming together again for the final battle. Along the way, we revisit past locations and characters from the franchise. One of the heroes is tempted by her evil father figure in the final act, and another hero sacrifices herself to save everyone else. In the climax, heroes from other films and franchises show up to save the day. It takes 2 of the heroes who are always at odds to team up and defeat the bad guy. Both movies have someone shouting at another character the whole time for no reason. Oh wait, sorry, that was just Rise of Skywalker.
Mom! Mommy!
Right! Right!
And another hero learns a lot about themselves by having a talk with a dead parental figure. Both movies end with the death of a hero sacrificing themselves to defeat the villain and save the universe. The other hero leaves the past behind and moves forward with their life, passing on a legendary name. And in the last battle, all is lost as the hero stands alone, and then they receive help from pretty much everyone in the franchise who is still alive. And look, I'll just say it. I hate Rise of Skywalker. It's not a secret. I made more than one video about it, including one where I worked out puppet therapy with J.J. Abrams. Great, because if a studio is dictating what to include or exclude from a movie, then you're not an artist. You're just a puppet. Anyways, man, have a good day. I hope your next movie's a lot better. Well, okay then. And that was just the version they let me post. This is from the censored version that I had to reshoot.
Does this mean you don't want me to direct another Star Wars movie?
If it were up to me, you wouldn't be allowed to see another Star Wars movie.
Now get the hell out of my store!
All around me are familiar.
Watching this guy read a description of the unfilmed version of Episode 9 was more riveting than this film.
And there's a scene where Chewbacca, behind the controls of an X-Wing, just kicks ass. It was amazing.
It's not a good movie, a good ending to a trilogy, or a good ending to the Skywalker saga. But you know, that last part's interesting because it gets to the heart of what I'm going to talk about when I compare Rise of Skywalker to Avengers Endgame. J.J. Abrams and Chris Terrio were tasked to not just wrap up a trilogy, but to wrap up a trilogy of trilogies. Ending a movie is hard, but ending 9 movies, plus more than 200 TV episodes and 3 spin-off movies, I mean,
That's impossible!
have you ever tried to write a short story? Ending one story is hard. Ending all the stories, it's impossible. And yet, that's what Lucasfilm and Disney wanted, an end to the Skywalker saga. And I never understood why. I guess so they could start new trilogies with totally new characters, reusing Roman numerals and stuff. That makes sense from a marketing standpoint, but the sequel trilogy was never intended to wrap up a 9-film saga. The problem is they never build up to the ending until the last movie. Kind of felt like Game of Thrones Season 8 in that regard, where all of a sudden all the character plot points they wanted to hit were rushed with dialogue.
They say every time a Targaryen is born, the gods toss a coin, and the world holds its breath.
And see, this is because they didn't originally intend for Episode 9 to end the Skywalker saga. There were rumors that Ahsoka Tano was going to be the focus of Episodes 10 through 12, and that Ashley Eckstein would play her in live action starting a new Jedi Order. And as we know, there was never an overall plan for this trilogy. Rian Johnson was allowed to do whatever he wanted, and J.J. Abrams never told him, say, like, who Rey's parents are. They were literally making this up as they went along, like a 9-year-old telling a joke.
Who told the gorilla that he couldn't go to the ballet performance?
And boy, does this lack of planning show up in Rise of Skywalker. The movie was incredibly rushed. Pages were being written and rewritten on set. They explained Palpatine's return with the word somehow.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
Like you're in the writer's room and that's a placeholder. Okay, so somehow Palpatine returned, let's come back to that later, and then they never did. But then, somewhere in all this, the studio demanded that this be an ending, and the ending of endings. Maybe so they could focus on TV shows, or to restart with new trilogies. I don't know. It reminded me of the ending of Quantum Leap. Spoilers for a show that ended in 1993. In every episode, Sam Beckett's mind entered the body of someone in history as he was trying to make his way back to his own time. But then, the network abruptly canceled the show, leaving fans with a title card that just said, "And then he never got home." As opposed to Avengers Endgame, which wrapped up a 20-film saga with a tidy, satisfying bow.
Hey, how do you know so much about all this stuff?
Well, Doug, it's because I spent my entire childhood indoors reading comic books, and because I do a lot of research, listening to a lot of audiobooks about these characters, and I listen to them with my Raycon earbuds, the sponsor of this video. I love these earbuds because they're very comfortable. For me, it feels like I'm not even wearing an earbud. That's because they have this rubber oil look and feel, which makes them feel very natural. They're also practically invisible and don't stick out at the sides.
Will you put them on so I can see them?
That's the thing, Doug. I'm already wearing them. These everyday earbuds have a built-in microphone and a 32-hour battery life, good for 8 hours of continuous playtime, so they're perfect for long commutes, or waiting in line at the DMV. Plus, they're noise isolating, so you can really focus on whatever ScreenCrush video you're watching. Raycon earbuds also start at half the price of other premium audio brands, making them a perfect gift for the holidays. So if you have a loved one who loves to work out or who listens to podcasts, I recommend buying them a pair at buyraycon.com/ScreenCrush. I listen to mine when I'm out walking Doug and when I edit videos. They allow me greater freedom of movement and the sound is crisp and clear. See, we've got a special deal for you. If you go to buyraycon.com/ScreenCrush, you get up to 20% off your order, or click the link in the description. And if you find out they're not right for you, they have a 45-day return policy.
And I'm all the Jedi.
And I am Iron Man.
So what really separates these two attempts at closure? Let's look at these scenes that brought everything to a head, the call for aid moments. First, Avengers Endgame. I don't think any characters in any major franchise have ever been brought as low as the heroes in Infinity War. Sure, Kirk lost Spock in Wrath of Khan, while Leia lost Han and Luke lost his hand and his faith in his mentors, but in Infinity War, all of the heroes' mistakes from their past movies, all the infighting, their egos, they all backfired, and they lost.
And guess what, Cap? We lost.
Watching so many heroes, major stars die was heartbreaking. Do you still remember the sounds people made in the theater when so many franchises were dusted?
Oh my god!
What? No!
And think of how many hours we spent with the characters to lead up to this. Steve's only friend when he was a kid was Bucky, and he had to watch him die. Then he spends 2 movies trying to redeem him, find him, bring him back to being himself, and then he just dies. Rocket watches his son die.
No. Rude. No.
Okoye's only duty was to protect the king, and she failed.
This is no place to die.
And Tony, no one failed worse than him. Peter was a surrogate son to him, but he was also Tony's chance to not commit his dad's mistakes. Tony's dad was harsh.
He was cold, he was calculating. He never told me he loved me, he never even told me he liked me.
So Tony tried to be lenient.
Lordy, can you even see in these?
Yes, I can't. Look, I can't.
But then he became too harsh.
I'm 15.
No, this is where you zip it. All right, the adult is talking.
So he makes several mistakes with Peter, but he still has one main job: make sure the kid stays alive. In Civil War, he panics when he thinks Peter is dead.
Kid, you all right?
And then he's forced to watch him die.
I don't want to go. I don't want to go. Please. I don't want to go.
And in Endgame, Peter is his primary motivation for bringing everyone back. So I'm repeating all this information to remind you of how high the emotional stakes are all throughout Endgame. It's heart-wrenching when Clint is nearly reunited with his family. So eventually, when Thanos arrives and destroys the Avengers compound, we feel like he's about to snatch away their victory. But at least this time, they're united against him. So he faces off with the big three Avengers, the biggest franchise stars, and then he proceeds to dismantle them one at a time. Even Steve's big moment, wielding Mjolnir, is not enough. They've thrown everything at Thanos, but the Avengers are going to lose again. But then...
On your left.
Now it's important that this is Sam, one of Steve's most loyal friends, calling back to the moment when they began that friendship.
Don't say it. Don't you say it. On your left. Come on!
This one line speaks to the character's shared history that we have seen unfold, and then we slowly see the snap reversed as the music builds. The first person to come back is T'Challa, leading the Wakandan forces. Now this is because Black Panther is maybe the second most popular dusted character after Spider-Man, but also a monarch returning sends an immediate message: my nation stands with you. And the score, which I can't really play because the video would be demonetized, is perfect. The slow drone, the drums, like we're going to war. And then the trumpet that signals the return of the king. Sam's sweep across the sky seems to open up the sky as other portals burst open. And then it's just, the feeling is like watching the Friends reunion and dumping out all your toys and playing with them at the same time, rolled into one. Everyone gets an introduction, a badass hero pose. And you know what else this ending is like? It's A Wonderful Life, when George Bailey thought he was alone and going to jail, but then the whole town shows up to save him. God, this is great. Then the heroes get their yeah faces, and Tony's all shocked that Pepper's suited up, and that's a callback to Iron Man 3, and Howard the Duck is there, and Valkyrie, and it all ends with Cap finally paying off that Age of Ultron ending.
Avengers!
Assemble.
Yes, yes, yes. Come on, Thanos, bring it. Show us what you got. We're Avengers.
Person,
Yeah,
you did it again.
I got sucked into the narrative, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
I'm sorry.
Don't let it happen again.
Okay, now let's talk about The Rise of Skywalker.
All right, everybody, let's do this!
Okay, first let's look at the offending scene before we explain why it did not work. Leading up to this, Rey has found out that she's a Palpatine, which is the worst thing in any Star Wars movie.
Because you're a Palpatine.
Yes, even worse than Jar Jar, midichlorians, and...
Buddha man, Yoda man.
But whatever, she's a Palpatine now. Suddenly, she's worried that she might become evil, which was never hinted at in any other movie, because here we are. So, after Luke gives her a pep talk, she heads straight to Exegol. And instead of, sending a message to the Resistance and saying where she's going and what to do, she kind of just hopes that they find her beacon and learn the way there.
She's showing us. She's showing us how to get there.
Now, I'm going over this because the lead up to the final battle is very important in establishing the stakes and the all is lost heroes return scene. You can really tell how rushed this movie was in these resistance scenes. They're just used for exposition, info dumping, and screenwriters shrugging their shoulders and saying, I don't know, for example,
Somehow Palpatine returned.
which is explained like this.
The Emperor is dead. Dark science. Cloning. Secrets only the Sith knew.
And just before the final battle,
We need to put some holdo maneuvers. Do some real damage.
and then off-screen Poe says,
Come on, that move is 1 in a million.
in the original draft, maybe they gave a better reason like, oh, we don't have enough ships for holdo maneuvers. But then they later changed this to simplify it with additional dialogue recording. But in any case, the Resistance is too small and weak to actually fight off the big shiny new fleet of Palpatine ships that has suddenly appeared. But this isn't the First Order. This is the new evil Sith Empire that's taken over the First Order. Anyways, so they make a plan for Lando and Chewie to rally the galaxy in just a few hours.
He'll take the Falcon to the core systems. Send out a call for help for anybody listening.
Wait a minute!
The previous movies established that it takes days or even weeks to travel around the galaxy, but whatever, now it's like they're running down to Kmart. Fine, ships are faster, now it's the future, I guess. And then Poe makes a nice speech and is like, for Leia! And when I watch this, I get the feeling like this is the movie talking to itself. Like the story is just kind of lumbering through this bullshit, and it's going, look, we can get to the end of this. We gotta do it for Carrie Fisher. Come on, let's land this turd. Alright, so Poe shows up, sees the size of the fleet, and makes what I call a thumbnail face, and immediately he's like,
Don't give up! Help is coming!
So the whole battle is just a stalling technique. They're waiting for everyone else to arrive so the real fight can begin.
Give us cover. Gotta keep that fleet there till help arrives.
We hope.
We hope.
And this is a major problem with this scene. In Endgame, the heroes were throwing everything they had at Thanos, and it wasn't enough, and they had no idea that help was coming. Cap wasn't trying to run out the clock, he was trying to win. We had no idea other people were going to show up. In Rise of Skywalker, we're told from the start that they just have to wait long enough.
We've got friends out there. They'll come if they know there's hope.
Now here's the thing, this trilogy has been so bad at world building that we actually have no idea who might show up. In one of The Last Jedi's much weaker plot points, they sent out signals for help against the First Order and no one answers.
They've heard us, but no one's coming.
But at this point in this franchise, we have no idea who would answer. Who are these friends? Who are the people from other movies that we would connect with that we would expect to show up? So I'm just going to say it. You need some politics in Star Wars. The Force Awakens tells us that there's a republic and a first order, but we never understand why there are two governments, and then there's one government, and we don't really see why the republic collapsed so fast or understand anything about the republic or who might be coming in to help in Rise of Skywalker. Where if the other movies had established, like, maybe that Lando runs a smuggling operation with a ton of ships, or that the Hutts are still around with ships, or there's like, I don't know, like Ewoks in space now, then we would be like, gee, I hope those space Ewoks show up and help at the end. But there are no factions or characters teased in these movies. The big reveal is Wedge, which is cool, and then there's Babu Frick and Zuri, two characters who were introduced in this movie. And that's it. Unless you have, like, my job and you want to pick out all of these individual ships and catch the Star Wars Rebels reference. So, unlike Endgame, we don't immediately feel that satisfaction that all these characters we love have returned to help. And that's a huge problem. There are no personal stakes. These movies sucked at forming bonds between the characters. In the first Star Wars, Han, Luke, and Leia start off as strangers, then they went through a lot together, and by the end, you really get the feeling that they're friends. In the sequel trilogy, Rey and Finn meet, he has a crush on her.
Got a family? Got a boyfriend? Cute boyfriend?
None of your business, that's why.
And then immediately lies to her for the whole movie.
With the Resistance, yeah. I am with the Resistance.
Now, Poe and Finn, great friendship.
Oh no. Poe Dameron, you're alive? Buddy.
This makes sense, but Rey never really seems to care for Finn. Or at least this affection seems very one-sided because he implied that she's like the first girl he's ever seen. And then Poe and Rey don't even meet until the end of the second movie.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Poe.
Rey.
Imagine if The Empire Strikes Back had ended with Luke being like, oh hey, you must be Leia, hi, what's up? And then the three of them are together for a fetch quest in The Rise of Skywalker, and then they talk like they have this chemistry.
You were a spice runner?
You were a stormtrooper?
Were you a spice runner?
Were you a scavenger? We could do this all night.
But it rings false because we've never actually seen them do anything together. And then the movie can't wait to introduce more action characters, instead of letting these three people get to know each other. I love that guy. So in this final battle, there really are no personal stakes, at least not for the all is lost moment. Now there are personal stakes with Rey and Kylo Ren thanks to their very strong relationship developed in The Last Jedi. Their bond made me want to see Ben be redeemed. But the space battle, sheesh. There's one kind of personal connection in the last fight, Snap Wexley. He's the Wedge Antilles of the Resistance, the guy you rarely see out of the cockpit, but everybody seems to like him. And we like Greg Grunwald from shows like Heroes, but the guy wasn't even in Last Jedi, maybe because his friend J.J. Abrams wasn't directing. So when Snap is killed off, it's supposed to be a big deal. Poe takes it hard. No! Thank you for the thumbnail face. But as an audience member, were you like, oh no, not Snap? Of course not. No one cared except the actor's family. But Poe immediately gives up.
I'm sorry. I thought we had a shot.
Very inspiring. Compare that to this. Maybe I'm nitpicking. Alright, so this takes us into the all is lost moment. But then...
But there are more of us, Poe. There are more of us.
Now this is 100% meant to be an on your left moment, even if it's not deliberately copying Endgame, which I actually doubt it was. Lando shows up with all these ships, the main Star Wars theme plays, trying to evoke the feeling that yes, this is what the entire saga has been leading up to. But the problem is, it's not. This whole plot line, Palpatine's return, the new First Order, it all just came out of nowhere. And that's the main point that I want to talk about. This entire fight, the idea that this is an ending to the Skywalker saga, does not work because it is unearned. The movie was thrown together at the 11th hour and rushed to be called an ending to the Skywalker saga. It doesn't pay off anything from the previous movies, instead it introduces new, unresolved plot points.
How do you know?
A feeling.
Well, let's find out.
and it abandons plot points and characters from other movies.
Rose, last chance.
The general asked me to study the specs of old destroyers, so we can stop the fleet if you find it.
There is no triumphant return of familiar characters because there are no familiar characters. These movies added nothing to the pantheon of great Star Wars characters. Force Awakens rehashed New Hope, Last Jedi was a beautiful auteur character film that did zero world building, and Palpatine returning at the last minute was meant to give the movie a final boss fight so we could feel like we finally beat this game. I beat this Star Wars, now I'm ready to move on to the next DLC. And finally, if I may, there's a difference between fan service and pandering. This is fan service.
Activate instant kill!
And this is pandering. Because it's already established in canon that Wookiees don't accept medals or rewards, and that's why Chewie didn't want the medal. But it's like an internet thing that Chewie didn't get a medal, so Disney gave him one, so we'll go, ha, good, Chewie got a medal. I saw that on the internet.
Nice.
Hey, I think you're being kind of mean to that movie.
Oh yeah? Why's that?
'Cause, I don't know, I like Star Wars. I'm only 18 months old, and this is the first Star Wars movie I ever seen. It's special to me because I like the space battles and the Force, and I think they're brave. So it's special to me. This movie made me want to see more Star Wars. I think it's fun.
That's nice, buddy. And I love Star Wars too. More than you ever will, so all your opinions are wrong. But those are just our thoughts. Let me know yours down in the comments below or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe and smash that bell. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.